Berman Books Media is proud to present Getting Wild Sex from Your Conservative Woman. Written by Brandi Love. Narrated by Barbie Boswell.
Introduction. My husband and I have participated in the lifestyle for a little over 7 years now and enjoy every minute of it. Together, we run an online adult company managing over 1,500 domains and starring in our flagship site, brandilove.com. I enjoy being in front of the camera as much as I do behind it directing scenes. I am the company's CFO, talent coordinator, and manager of everything to do with my own site. Once or twice a month, I dance at a local gentleman's club for an adrenaline rush, also in hopes of bringing home a new playmate. Fast cars, rock concerts, stripping, and shooting porn are among my favorite hobbies. So you ask yourself, what in the world could this woman know about being a conservative mate? Great question. So let me explain. There was a time when my husband would come home to a baggy flannel pants wearing, hair undone, no makeup, and tired with a headache wife. I was mousy, introverted, libido-less. For reasons I'll elaborate on later, I lost my sexual edge fairly early in our marriage. Within 3 years, the liberated wild child my husband married was gone. When we met in college, our chemistry was nothing short of electric. We were having wild, mind-blowing, intense sex 5 or 6 times a week. Sometimes we would do it several times in one night. We played with food during sex, made love in public places, and experimented with toys. We tried everything. The word limitation did not exist in our working vocabulary. Then I became the nightmare wife. Things changed a few years into our marriage when my parents began imposing their will into our lives. They never quite understood me and hoped that settling down would make me more like them. They thought getting married would mold me into the picture-perfect wife they preferred and expected me to become. Family and societal pressure to conform began to mount and take its toll on my self-esteem as well as my marriage. My family sent me a slew of articles and books on how to be the good wife. They took jabs at my moral character if they felt my skirt was too short or my top was too low. I remember the looks of horror after entering and winning a bikini contest. And I was practically disowned when I got my breast augmentation. I was finding it harder and harder to just be me in a world that did not really appreciate being different. Despite my inner desire to stay true to myself, pressure coupled with immaturity led me to make a choice against my true nature. I chose to conform. I actually chose mundane, conservative, and normal over wild, uninhibited, and free. I chose them over me. I was not ready for the backlash that one can experience when they do not fit into the norms of society. I had not yet learned that individuality makes the world go round and certainly adds excitement. I had a few more lessons to learn before regaining myself back. When my husband and I had sex, it felt scripted, and in a way, it was. I had to script it because I didn't know what I was doing anymore. With this new me came so many rules. Something I was most definitely not used to. All of a sudden, there were right ways and wrong ways to say and do everything. I found myself constantly second-guessing every action and every word. My husband went from being married to a woman who loved sex for sex's sake to a woman who needed a reason and a plan before engaging in such activities. He must have felt like he was married to a total stranger. Of course, as I slipped further into my conservative cave of seclusion, he slipped further into the world of erotic fantasy. Instead of having an affair, he found his outlet through adult movies and internet communities. Quite frankly, I can't blame him. Looking back at the type of wife I was, I should have been out there buying the adult movies for him. After all, the woman my husband had fallen in love with and married had disappeared. He didn't leave me, but I'm sure he prayed every night for his wife to return and take over the body of this thing that had inhabited it. Meanwhile, I spent 3 years living in constant strife. I battled every day with how to act, what to say, and what to wear. The praise I received from my parents overpowered my conflicted feelings. This change in me was destroying our marriage. We ended up separating. Divorce lawyers were retained. 2 months went by, not a day without agony. We came to the mutual realization that we couldn't live without each other. However, we had to try and reclaim what we had before marriage in order for this to work. I knew exactly what he meant. I suspect my story is not particularly unique, and that's why I felt it was important to write this audio program. If this audio program can save one relationship, I'll be forever grateful for creating it. With sex being such a fundamentally important aspect of relationships, it is ridiculous to me that couples rarely speak of the subject, let alone their preferences, likes, and fantasies. I see the consequences of conservative relationships every day. Rather than fulfilling each other's sexual fantasies, couples turn to adultery, antidepressants, psychiatrists, alcohol, drugs, and divorce. How in the world can those things be less embarrassing or uncomfortable than having a conversation with your partner about what turns them on? Risk losing the person I love over an adulterous affair, or have a conversation that will ultimately allow me to know my mate better? How is this an option? We are going to dive into both of those questions as well as many others. Part of the answer lies in the fact that society has conditioned us to believe that only sluts have sexual adventures and only sleazy men are interested in threesomes. Not true. Many people buy into the feeble philosophy of the masses without taking into consideration the ramifications. We are not all the same. Trying to be something we were not meant to be causes suffocation and eventual deterioration of oneself. I stopped the insanity and regained control of my life. Throughout this audio program, you'll learn more about how and why I did this. Throughout the country and throughout the world, people are dealing with bad decisions they have made and the consequences of those decisions. We all make the wrong choice from time to time. The key to success and happiness is learning from the poor choices and making better ones the next time around. If you're listening to this audio program, you probably aren't being truthful with yourself or your partner regarding your sexuality or your desires. Although I don't know your specific story, I do believe this. I believe my life, revealed through this audio program, can help. Before I rediscovered my sexuality, I can assure you I faced many of the same burdens and frustrations you're facing now. Relieving myself of those burdens brought me unbelievable freedom, which you may not understand at this point, but you will. There is nothing more liberating than discovering or rediscovering who you are. I do believe every single one of us has a purpose and a very unique personality. I also believe many people live their entire lives never being the person they were meant to be. My advice? Believe in openness, honesty, and respect in a relationship. Never approve of disloyalty or cheating. That's what you will get throughout this audio program. Honesty, openness, and a healthy dose of what I consider sexy. If you married a vixen who turned into somewhat of a prude, or if you're dating someone who has always been uptight sexually, and it is killing the relationship, you need to continue listening to this. It can save your partnership. Chapter 1. Introducing the idea of wild sex. I was not a virgin when I met my husband, but after we had our baby, I began to feel like one. We stopped having regular sex, and when we did do it, it lacked enthusiasm. I repressed my sexual appetite post-baby and began acting like Grandma Jones. I was spending my time baking cookies. He found stress relief watching porn. Things were getting drier than the Sahara. If you too are married to a wife who is more likely to look up banana bread recipes online than how to use one in the bedroom, listen on, my sexually unsatisfied friend. Your wife or mate is not the only one suffering from don't want sex syndrome. I had the disease at one point, and believe it or not, you have the remedy. You possess the ability to free your woman from sexual repression. Introducing the idea of wild sex to your mate can be an incredibly awkward and potentially unpleasant experience if done incorrectly. If, however, the correct steps are taken, it can be as pleasant and effortless as switching sexual positions. But gentlemen, listen carefully, because if you address the issue wrong the first time, you might not get a second chance to dance. I've seen a huge success rate in couples that have gone from boring to bootylicious when a man has had the patience and courage to let his lady take the lead. I can understand why you might want to control the situation by way of leading, but this isn't ballroom dancing. Instead, gather information and facts about the thing you're hoping to try, and present the idea to her in a non-threatening environment. Then she's in control, and when she's in control, she'll feel powerful and less tempted to scoff at your perverted ideas. Timing is really essential at this point. You will not get the desired results if you blurt out one night over meatloaf that you have always wanted her to put a saddle on your back, stick a horsetail butt plug in your ass, and holler, "Giddy up!" Patience. Consider your words. Time your approach. Venue is important, so opt for settings that are either fun and exciting or relaxing and sultry. Think hip Las Vegas-style ultra club or sexy candlelight dinner and a bottle of wine. Another fabulous choice would be while basking in the afterglow of making love. When you begin, please remember this word: honesty. Women can handle just about anything you present to them if they feel secure. Insecure women will slam the door shut so tight before the X in the word sex comes out, it will take a team of professional locksmiths to pry it back open. If she is insecure, the chapters ahead will give you suggestions on how to help her feel the necessary security in herself and your relationship to be more receptive to your sexually adventurous conversations. My adventure into the lifestyle was a choice. My husband and I first learned about swinging almost by accident, and it appealed to us very quickly. For the majority, that isn't how it works. Most couples get into swinging after having had long discussions, done countless hours of research, and after much consideration of what it might mean for their relationship. If the concept of swinging is completely foreign to you and your partner, it's important to handle the topic with a lot of sensitivity and to be respectful of your partner. There are many ways to introduce sexual conversations without the worry of being too direct. If you are curious as to your partner's feelings on swinging or threesomes, watch the first couple of episodes of Swingtown or Wild Things. Explore some of the classic sexual revolution movies, Last Tango in Paris, Barbarella, or something like Wild Orchid. Discuss how you feel about the subject matter. If you notice intrigue in your mate, you could comment, "So honey, you seem pretty turned on by that movie. Have you ever had fantasies like that situation in the film?" Or, "That movie really got me thinking. I would love to hear about your deepest fantasies." Other approaches that may help you break the ice into sexually delicious conversations would be offer up an adult-only vacation, desire, hedonism, etc. "Honey, I really miss having time for just you and I. How would you feel about an adult-only vacation? A sexy little getaway for you and I." A night out at a posh hip club. These environments are sexually charged and offer a great recipe for liberating one's body and mind, drinks, dancing, and music. This could lead to a great opportunity for open communication on our favorite topic, sex. Wind up a date night at the bookstore and find your way to the adult section. Pick out an erotic storybook. When you get home, take turns reading about others' sexy encounters. Again, opening up the opportunity to discuss your feelings on what you just read. These suggestions are indirect ways to bring up hot topics. You can get a feel for your partner's comfort level on many different subjects in a very non-threatening way. If one subject seems to flow easily and she is enjoying the conversation and/or getting turned on by it, let her lead. This will give her a sense of sexual control, and now there's a sense of empowerment taking place. When she sees your enthusiasm about what she is telling you, she will become more comfortable sharing her sexual desires. She may be discovering things about her fantasy life as she talks to you. Cheer her on and allow her time to express herself completely. Remember, this may be the first time she has heard her own voice say sexually explicit things. This can be the beginning of her self-expression and start of decision-making when it comes to living out her fantasy life. It's true that some women like surprises, but when it comes to swinging or other new sexual experiences, a controlled and previously discussed event is usually a better thing. Spontaneity can wait until you're both comfortable in your own skin and the skin of others. That being said, do not greet her as she comes home from a long day at work by saying, "Hey, sweetie, I was on a swingers website today and met this really cool couple. They're coming over at 8. Most likely she'll panic, an argument may ensue, she'll shut you out, and the likelihood of ever having a fun-loving, exciting conversation about the possibility of swinging is very slim. Generally speaking, women like to be given the courtesy and option of making the first move. There are, of course, some women who like it when their partners take the lead. I have an incredibly shy friend who will not make the first move, but when her husband takes the lead and gets things started, look out. She is a wildcat. It all comes back to knowing your partner. I don't know a man with a pulse who hasn't fantasized about going to a gentleman's club with his lady friend. You're probably one of them. Number one reason women will not attend such an event? Insecurity. If your lady is confident in who she is and where she stands with you, she would more likely than not be the one dragging you out of the house to get you to the strip club early so as to get front row seats. Men's clubs can be a great way to open the sexual communication channel between you and your mate. I know many couples that have had wonderful experiences at such clubs, which led to a night of wild, passionate sex. After all, they're relatively harmless and considerably less intimidating than suggesting some of the other ideas that may be bouncing in your sexually advanced mind. I think all couples should check out the club scene together. If you and your gal meet the right entertainer, she may hit a sexy nerve with your mate and get her juices flowing. Women are inherently competitive. If your gal sees you looking at an entertainer and you say, "Babe, she moves sexy, don't you think?" and then quickly add, "But man, what I wouldn't do to see you dance like that for me," you may be in for the lap dance of your life. It's such a sultry environment and one that may work for open and honest sexual communication. I can say this from experience. I was initially horrified by the thought of going into a gentleman's club. I actually thought of them as houses of slutty filth, a place full of a bunch of women who would try and take my man away. I felt this way about the clubs until I was liberated and appreciated them for what they are: erotic entertainment establishments for adults. Once my mind was freed, my body and curiosity followed. One night after a concert, I begged Chris to pull off the exit where the local men's club resided. He was nervous but did not ask questions. We went in and I was amazed. I loved it and could not wait to go back the following weekend. It opened my eyes to what a turn-on dancing was for me. Long story short, I started working there 4 weeks after my first visit. Imagine this. You've invited your wife to go with you to a strip club, and she happily agrees. You're both excited, dressed to the nines, anxious for what the night may hold. Then you get there. She freaks out and refuses to go inside. She says she can't go inside. What if the neighbors are there? What if? What do you do? I promise you this. Trying to convince her to go in is a bad idea. If you want this night to turn out great and potentially be the first step to a sexually liberating relationship, leave without uttering a syllable of complaint. Tell her you love her, that it's okay if she doesn't want to go inside, and then just leave. On the way home, tell her she looks beautiful and that you didn't want to go inside anyway because she looks so sexy that you just want to go home and tear her up. If she doesn't want to go, the worst thing you can do is try to force her. Don't make a snide remark about how it took you 2 hours to get ready. Focus on the fact that the preparation and idea of the night was the event. If you didn't get to go tonight, don't fret. You never know. In a week, she might blindfold you, drive you to the strip club, and surprise you. You could also say, "Forget the club. Let's go home and make love." Or, "You look so amazing tonight, I'd love to show you off. What about going to that new dance club downtown?" You just scored 5 points with her for doing that. Generally speaking, if a sexual experiment fails, there are a few ways to turn it around and make it work. Maybe you didn't get to go to the strip club that night, but because the way you handled it, you might get the opportunity to try it again another night. More importantly, you are building security within your woman and within your relationship. Again, even if you did not see the inside of the club, you have made huge gains towards a closer, more honest and liberating relationship. While you're introducing your mate to the wonderful world of wild sex, it's important to keep positive. If each baby step is met with praise and positive reinforcement, you'll get stronger and stronger together. It's a slow process, but it's part of the bonding experience that will help you grow closer together and help you reach the ultimate goal of mind-blowing sex. When my husband and I were dating, he worked at a men's club, and I shuddered whenever the word strip joint came up in conversation. I, foolishly, assumed all entertainers were sleazy, easy, and willing to sleep with anyone for a little money. I also assumed they all wanted to sleep with my husband, and I suspected they were sleeping with my husband. I can tell you I spent way too many hours and days unnecessarily worrying about things that were not real or mattered. That happened due to my insecurity and our lack of built-up trust in our relationship. But today I dance at a local men's club a couple times a month for the pure exhilaration and sexual adventure it brings to our bedroom. I dance 2 or 3 nights a month, but it's something I seriously look forward to. I love the erotic atmosphere, and if I'd never gone into a strip club, I would have always wondered, would I have liked that? Or would I have been any good at it? One of the things I wanted to say on my gravestone is that I have no regrets. I believe all people should make that their mantra. Obviously, exotic dancing is not liberating for all individuals. It was for me, but it's just one example of a way to begin opening the doors to your sexual mind, an idea to get you thinking about what would be exciting for you and your mate. Start there and then remember, baby steps. You know that aforementioned strip club scenario I just told you about? Well, that happened to my husband and I. We went to a club, I panicked, and we never made it through the door. He handled the situation so well that one night after going to a concert together, months after the first attempt, I surprised him by telling him I wanted to go to a strip club. I really wanted to go that night, even though I was extremely nervous. To me, when I walked in, they all looked perfect. They were all so pretty. They all had these perfect, perky breasts. They all had flawless bodies. I was intimidated. But we got in, and within minutes, I was blown away. It was a very erotic environment, and believe it or not, a very liberating environment. When I stepped into a club for the first time, I felt like a kid in a candy store. Oh my God, this is insane, I thought. There are other people out there that think like me. And that one night, I found myself so not jealous that I was buying dances for my husband. I was completely turned on by this. Of course, I had to ask myself why this was exciting to me. It went against how I was raised. I wasn't supposed to have this much fun in a strip club. I wasn't supposed to find this liberating. I wasn't supposed to watch idly as my husband got a lap dance from a perfect stranger wearing a thong the size of dental floss. But I was jazzed. I couldn't wait to do it again. I reacted that way the second time because things were grand in my relationship. He made me feel like I was number one. I was very secure and knew there was no other woman for my husband. He loved knowing how secure I felt with him. That's how I was when he met me in college, and he was happy to see that girl come back. It's up to you to convince your wife that the strip joint is not about ogling flawless bodies. Rather, it's about experiencing an erotic environment together in a public setting. Of course, you can't do that without first establishing a sense of safety and security within your relationship. 3 weeks after my husband and I enjoyed a glorious night inside that club, he went out of town on business. I seized the moment by getting a babysitter, going to the strip club, and participating in amateur night. I went from wondering what it was like to be in a strip joint to wondering what it might be like to actually dance. I began wondering if I could. I convinced myself to try it, and so I did. The girls were great. They let me borrow shoes and a dress and were all very supportive. At the time, I didn't even own a thong, but that didn't stop me from competing. After the contest, I called my husband at 2:30 in the morning and told him he wasn't going to believe how I'd spent the better part of the evening. When I told him what I had done, he was as excited as I was. He was happy for me and couldn't wait to come home for a personal show. When I got on stage, I knew I was going to react by doing one of two things. Either I was going to panic and run off the stage, or a light was going to go on and I was going to love it. I've never been shy on stage and grew up doing tap, ballet, and jazz. I was not afraid of speaking in groups. I was an ice skater. I have performed in front of packed arenas. I'd even done bikini contests. But this was taking it to another level. I was doing things I just didn't do in my tap shoes. For me, this was a huge step and one that turned out to be extremely sexually freeing. I wanted to do it again, so I did. I ended up taking a job they offered me to dance twice a month. I'm a working mother and a wife, so dancing gives me a much-needed break from the real world. For me, it feels like mom's night out. It's where I go to really let loose and have some fun. Here is one other thing to consider. If you think your wife will never go to a men's club, get involved in an online adult community, a place where couples and singles alike chat and discuss all things sexual. She will be sure to engage in some meaningful and thought-provoking conversations. Perhaps hearing other women's and other couples' ideals and adventures will help her open up more to the idea of wild or wilder sex. One of these avenues will work, and your partner will begin to relax and engage into this new world. Make sure you are really ready for the wild child in her to emerge. Once you cross that bridge with her, it is a team effort. You cannot start a train rolling and then decide maybe you are too insecure to actually let her feel the freedom. Never make her feel bad for being able to let go. A dynamic and successful sexual relationship is based and built on the mutual desire to completely and totally allow one another to feel satisfaction on all levels with the partnership of your mate at your side. Genuinely desiring for your mate to be happy is the root of all of this. Chapter 2. What is wild sex? This is a very interesting and important subject. After all, the topic can get sticky, figuratively and literally. Wild sex has more connotations than the sky has stars. For some, wild sex may be experiencing anything they have visualized in their fantasies. For some, it is as mild as wearing lingerie or stilettos to bed. For others, it is more extreme, like playing with different fetishes or BDSM. For others still, wild sex means adding more people to the bedroom. The point being, wild sex is whatever you desire it to be. In every healthy relationship, lovers experience cliched, typical sexual experiences. The dry spell or stagnant sex. Usually, that happens after many years of being together. We're going to get you back to when you couldn't contain the wild, crazy, intense attraction you first had for your mate. Remember the time when you wanted to have sex with your lady every time you thought about her? Just the thought of seeing her that evening gave you wood. Yes, you remember. We're going to get you back to that point and keep you there. There shouldn't be an expiry date on an out-of-this-world sex life, but eventually sparks tend to fade away. If you've been with your lover for many moons, it's probably hard to remember a time when you tried anything other than the missionary position. Don't fret, my pet. With my help, you'll have that wild child back in no time. Remind your partner of those halcyon days when sex was something you actually look forward to. Say, "Don't you remember that?" And then get her thinking about what made it so grand. Think about why you lost it, and then think about how you can go about getting it back. Your partner holds the answer. Wild sex, in a nutshell, is sex without borders. It can involve games, food, friends, enemies, strangers, booze, toys, and household appliances. There are no limitations, and there should be no inhibitions when having and enjoying wild sex. Couples should strive for it because when they do, they've reached a new and higher level of trust for each other. People have inhibitions because they're scared. They're afraid of rejection, afraid of being made fun of, afraid of how others will view them. If you reach a point in your relationship where you are having totally uninhibited, mind-blowing sex, it's a terrific sign. It means you've not only built a trust and bond with your partner, but have personally become a more confident individual. Both of those things enrich life and make relationships more meaningful. When the trust and confidence in yourself and your partner are stable, the opportunity to explore your true sexual self and the sexual essence of your partnership will flourish. What once seemed nasty or impossible to you in the bedroom or out will sound exciting and oh so very possible. As your relationship strengthens, your sexual borders will weaken and fade away, leaving your sex life open to all things fabulous. You will be that person walking around with a grin on your face, and everyone will be asking you, what kind of happy pill you're taking? You will be able to just smile and say, man, life is just that good. Amazing that sex has that kind of power over our happiness. Until you acknowledge that fact, you will not seek nor...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?